I want to buy your breast milk. My boss offered me $500,000 for my breast milk. I thought he wanted it to feed a baby, until I saw him lying there weak, then coming back to life after drinking it. That was when I realized he was using breast milk to treat his illness. Later, he offered me $5 million and asked me to feed him directly. For the money, I agreed. And later, he asked me, if I give you $50 million, would you say yes? When my boss suddenly called me in, I was terrified he was going to fire me. Once I lost this job, I would have no income at all. After I got pregnant and gave birth to my daughter Lucy, the company forced me to quit. I had burned through all my savings. I couldn't buy this, couldn't spend on that. Bottom line, I was broke. Luckily, I had plenty of milk, so I could breastfeed and didn't have to buy formula. But diapers cost money and clothes cost money too. My daughter's clothes were already too small, and winter clothes were needed too. If I hadn't gotten lucky and found this job, she wouldn't even have diapers or winter clothes. Don't be nervous. My boss was 33, and he looked refined, gentle, and easy to like. I called you in this time for something personal. He was good looking, but what I envied even more was that he clearly came from money. I really wished I could be like him. I also regretted it so much. Back then, I knew nothing and rushed into marriage and having a child. Now life was miserable and my child suffered too. Are you breastfeeding? I want to buy some of your breast milk. Don't worry, I'll pay you. I naturally assumed someone in his family had a baby, or maybe a friend's baby didn't have enough milk. In my mom's group, some mothers also asked for breast milk, but most people didn't charge for it. Boss, if you need it, you don't have to pay me. My baby can't finish all of it anyway. No, I don't like owing people, and I need it delivered on time every day. If you don't charge me, I can't make requests. So there were conditions too. Fine, but you really don't have to pay much. Just a little is enough. If I kept the boss happy, he definitely wouldn't fire me in the future. Wait, this is way too much. Don't turn it down. You've had a physical, so I trust that you're healthy, and I still have a lot of unreasonable requests. Looking at that $500,000, my heart felt heavy. I only had a little over $80 left in my bank account, and I didn't even eat lunch at work. I would go straight to the break room and eat the free cookies and bread just to save money. Because I was poor, my husband and mother-in-law treated me badly and I didn't dare get divorced. Because if I got divorced, they might fight me for custody, and I might not win. Even if I did get my child, no one would help me watch her. I still had to rely on my mother-in-law. First, you need to come to my office every day to pump. You can't go anywhere else or I can't confirm the milk is clean and safe. I thought that was reasonable. I heard he was actually a rich second-generation heir. Of course he'd be afraid of being set up. Second, to make sure the milk has enough nutrition, you need to eat 3 meals prepared by my family's chef. Rich people really were particular, but this was good for my daughter too. I was getting a deal. I didn't have to eat dinner at home or face my husband and mother-in-law. It was perfect. Third, while you're providing milk, I hope you won't have sex with your husband. It was definitely offensive, but he was giving me $500,000, and I didn't want to be with my husband anymore anyway. I went to my boss's lounge to pump first. Honestly, it felt pretty embarrassing. I was entering his private space and doing something so private. Luckily, after becoming a mom, my sense of shame had dropped again and again. For the money and for my daughter's future, I gritted my teeth and pumped quickly. Boss, I'm done. Do you want me to put it in the fridge? Just leave it on my desk. I'll handle it myself in a bit. I transferred the money I got into my own bank account first. I was afraid my husband would find out. I wanted to divorce him. After marriage and childbirth, the foolishness in my head had mostly drained away. But now wasn't the time. I had to pass my probation period first and get stable income. When I got home, my mother-in-law handed the baby to me and went square dancing. You watch her yourself. My husband was playing games on his phone. His salary wasn't high either. I used to hope he would help me out, but whenever I asked him to do chores, he said he had to study for the civil service exam and give me a better life. Keep nagging me and don't blame me for getting mad. Can't you see I'm studying? Is the pressure okay? Work must have been tough, baby. You must be exhausted. Before I got pregnant, my husband did everything I wanted and was extremely patient. You just rest. I'll take care of all this. Laundry, cooking, cleaning. He handled everything. He even said he would take care of me like I was a flower. I saved 3 months of salary. When you take vacation, I'll take you on a trip, okay? There was a bag I liked, but I said no because it was too expensive and beyond our budget. He borrowed money from a friend to buy it for me. Back then, I thought that was love. Even though he had no money, I was willing to marry a man who only had eyes for me. But after I got pregnant, he became a completely different person. He stopped doing chores, stopped giving me money, and told me to save. What's wrong with saving? You're just pregnant. Why does it cost so much? You're so dramatic. If he had said that earlier, I never would have been with him. I held my baby and breastfed her on the side, watching my husband lie on the couch playing on his phone. I felt lonely and hopeless. I couldn't imagine my child living this kind of miserable life with me. That night, the baby slept with us, and my husband came over and started grabbing at me. How long has it been? We haven't been intimate in forever. He used to go out of his way to please me, making me feel truly cherished. Now I only felt like he saw me as a tool. It's been long enough, we can do it now. I don't want to. During the struggle, my husband slapped me across the face. Then he grabbed at my clothes again. I picked up my phone and smashed it against his head. Jack, what the hell is wrong with you? I didn't dare make him angrier. He looked terrifying. The baby woke up and started crying. I held her and tried to calm her down, but my husband got even angrier. He shoved me hard. I couldn't dodge in time and fell to the floor with my baby in my arms. Luckily, I hit the ground first. My mother-in-law rushed in and without a word came up and hit me several times. You useless burden, how dare you talk back to my son? You've really lost your mind. I had no strength to fight back and the baby cried in fear. You curse on this family. You gave birth to a useless girl and still dare to make my son angry. I'll beat some sense into you. My husband watched coldly as his mother hit me. Serve my son properly or you'll regret it. A woman who's married and had a child is worthless now. You should work like a slave for my son. Women need to be hit. They only listen after a beating. You were too nice to her before, so she forgot her place. As my mother-in-law's insults filled the room, something inside me finally broke. For years, I had tolerated their behavior. I endured the criticism, the humiliation, and the endless demands because I believed things would eventually get better. I told myself that my husband was just stressed. I convinced myself that his mother was difficult, but ultimately harmless. Yet as I sat on the floor clutching my crying daughter while the two people who were supposed to be my family looked at me with contempt, I finally realized the truth. They would never change. That night, after they had both gone back to sleep, I quietly held Lucy in my arms and cried. Not because of the pain from being hit, but because I finally understood that if I stayed, my daughter would grow up believing this was normal. She would think it was acceptable for a husband to hit his wife. She would think a woman deserved to be treated as less than a person. I couldn't allow that to happen. The next morning, I put on makeup to cover the bruises and went to work as usual. I hoped no one would notice, but the moment I entered the office, my boss looked up from his desk and frowned. "What happened to your face?" I immediately looked away. I bumped into a cabinet. His eyes lingered on me for several seconds. It was obvious he didn't believe me, but he didn't press further. Instead, he simply told me to sit down and eat breakfast before starting work. As always, the meal prepared by his family's chef was far better than anything I could afford myself. For the first time in months, I found myself eating without constantly worrying about money. Over the next few weeks, my life slowly improved. The money from providing milk allowed me to buy new clothes for Lucy, better diapers, and even put aside some savings. Meanwhile, my husband noticed that I seemed less dependent on him. That only made him more suspicious. One evening, he demanded to know where the money was coming from. I told him I had received a bonus at work. Instead of being happy for me, his expression darkened. What kind of bonus? When I refused to explain further, he immediately accused me of hiding something. From that moment on, he began checking my phone, searching my bags, and monitoring everything I did. The more independent I became, the more threatened he felt. A few days later, disaster struck. My husband secretly followed me to work. From outside the office, he watched me enter my boss's private lounge as part of the arrangement we had agreed upon. He had no idea what was actually happening. All he saw was his wife going into a wealthy man's private room. By the time I came out, his imagination had already created a completely different story. That evening, he exploded. He accused me of having an affair. He screamed, threw things, and demanded that I hand over all my money. When I refused, he raised his hand again. This time, however, someone witnessed everything. One of my neighbors had heard the commotion and recorded the incident on her phone before calling the police. When officers arrived, my husband's arrogance instantly disappeared. For the first time, there were consequences. For the first time, there were consequences. And for the first time, I realized I wasn't as powerless as I had always believed. The next day, I walked into my boss's office carrying a folder. Inside were divorce papers. "I'm filing for divorce," I told him. Instead of looking surprised, he simply nodded. It should have happened a long time ago. Those words nearly brought me to tears. No one had ever supported me so directly before. As the divorce process began, my husband and mother-in-law immediately shifted tactics. Suddenly, they weren't angry anymore. Instead, they demanded custody of Lucy. Not because they loved her. Not because they cared about her, but because they believed it would force me to stay. What they didn't know was that I had already been quietly gathering evidence for months. Photos of bruises, medical records, witness statements, messages filled with threats and insults. Everything they had done was documented. When the custody hearing finally arrived, the truth came out in front of everyone. The judge listened to the recordings, reviewed the evidence, examined the police reports. My husband sat there growing paler with every passing minute. His mother tried to interrupt several times, but each attempt only made things worse. By the end of the hearing, the decision was clear. Full custody was awarded to me. As I walked out of the courthouse holding Lucy, my ex-husband called after me. For the first time since I had known him, he looked afraid. Not angry, not arrogant. Afraid. He begged me to reconsider. He promised to change. He swore he would become the husband he used to be. But I simply looked at him and realized something important. The man I fell in love with had never really existed. He had only been pretending until he believed I was trapped. Without saying another word, I turned and walked away. Months later, my life looked completely different. I had a stable job, enough money to support my daughter, and a peaceful home free from shouting and fear. Lucy smiled more. I smiled more. For the first time in years, I felt hopeful about the future. One evening, as I watched my daughter play in the park, my boss sat down beside me. "You seem happier." "I am." He smiled. "Good." Looking at the sunset and then at my daughter laughing nearby, I realized something that had taken me years to understand. Real love doesn't make your world smaller. Real love doesn't control you. Real love doesn't hurt you. Real love gives you the strength to become the person you were always meant to be. And finally, after everything I had endured, my new life was just beginning.